All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're going to be talking about year-end closing in Dynamics GP for 2023. And that will be led today by my cohorts, John Seamer and Roland Ensweiler. So before we start, just a couple housekeeping items. We are recording this presentation and it will be sent to you in the next couple of days. So look forward to that. If you have any questions during the presentation, please use the chat window or the Q&A as part of the Zoom meeting. We'll be monitoring those and we'll answer your questions at the end. And now I'm going to kind of hand it over to John and Roland, and they'll be leading the show today. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everyone. For those, I think that includes most of the folks here. You've been running in the GP world for a while. You've likely gone through some year-end processes. In summary, not much has changed. Actually, as far as what to do and how to do it, as far as the individual modules, has not changed. Still the same, but let this be a refresher, or if you are new, let this be the first time you've seen it and hope it can help. And along the way, if you have questions, just you can put them in the chat, or you can follow up with any of us later after the presentation. So the way we're going to approach this is just going through the different modules that you can do year-end closing on, when to run them, because there is some guidelines on what order to do the closing in the different modules. And we'll touch on maybe some file maintenance activities that you could do to kind of clean up the database. And I believe Roland's going to actually show some of the screens in GP in terms of doing the general ledger close. And then we'll close with some questions if you have any. So I provided a couple links here. The first one is just kind of like the general overall process on the year-end close, what items to pay attention to. It gives some fairly detailed instructions on the different tasks and activities that you need to do. And the second link is Microsoft Dynamics GP's, it's like a blog site that provides specific things, maybe having to do with the 2023 year-end close. So this is the general order that you want to process your year-end closes on the different modules. You want to do inventory, receivables, and payables before the end of the fiscal or calendar year for the most part. I think folks we're dealing with here is it's the calendar year 12/31. You want to close those modules on or near that last day of the month, last day of the year. Primarily what these modules do when you run the year-end closes, it updates the summary balances on things like the inventory item, like year-to-date sold quantities and amounts. For the receivables module, the invoicing, you're going to have year-to-date last year summary numbers by customer. And then the same thing on the payables. You're going to have those summary numbers on the payables. So, you know, it's, if you haven't been doing the closes on these modules up to this point, you're probably okay not doing it this year. You know, you've gotten by, you don't have any reports that you're looking at or any screens that you're using, depending on that are looking at those summary numbers. So I would say, if you haven't been doing it, no real compelling reason to start doing it this year. But if you want, you can do that, and there's not really a drop dead or, you know, compulsory need to actually run the module closes on the last day of the year. You could wait till the end of January. It's just that when those numbers then get reset, it's going to be missing, you know, the this year number will be missing any of the January activity, and last year is going to include January's activity. So that's just the summary, the overview on how to approach the year-end close. And then of course the general ledger, you know, you'll close that after you've made any, you know, after you've done all your year-end journal entries, depending upon what other activities you have going on. If you want to leave the general ledger open into, I mean, we've had customers go into March or April. The downside of that is your balance sheet for the current year is not going to have the closing balance or the beginning balances on it. It's you know, you're not going to have accurate balance sheet for the current year. So I would say a rule of thumb is, if your typical December close, when that's finished, run your general ledger year-end process. Roland will speak more to that going through that piece. So the first module to close is the inventory. And these are all generally the same. Post all your transactions. You can reconcile your quantities by doing a physical count. Print any reports you need. And then for any of these modules, we recommend to take a database backup in case things go south. when you're going through the process, you can restore that. And then after you do that, you run the close process, and you can close the periods for that module. Typically, though, you might hold off on that until you're through your GL year end. The final backup after that's done, you really don't need to do that. We kind of recommend, you know, take a backup at the beginning, run through the inventory, the AP and the AR close, and then you could take another backup at the end of those. You don't need to do the backup at the end of each module close. Receivables, pretty much the same approach. Make sure all your documents, transactions are posted. You don't have any outstanding batches. And you close the year. And that will move the balances, zero out this year and move the balances forward into last year summary numbers. Okay, the payables. I have two different slides here. The approach is really the same, regardless of whether you're doing a calendar year or fiscal year close. You know, you again, you want to post all your batches, all your open bills or check batches, and if you want, you run the age trial balance to make sure you have a decent, trusted balance. And any other reports you might want, maybe by a vendor report. So then we have it here to verify the 1099 information. There are a couple of reports or smart lists you can use, or there's even some additional smart list like a customization that we can help you with to verify the 1099 information. And then close the year, run the close process. That's all we have. The 1099s, I believe Roland's going to talk in more detail about this. There is some changes, no changes to the 1099 form itself, just some changes on filing requirements. And like I alluded to just a few seconds ago, there's some additional information we can help you with to try to validate and verify the 1099 info. So I'm going to pass it off to Roland right now, and he is going to cover the rest of the 1099 and the general ledger close process.
All right, thanks, John.
You want me to stop sharing here?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
And let's go with and I'll let. Can you see the deck, John, or what are you seeing?
Yes.
Okay. So within, and I'll be moving back and forth here on screens. So for the 1099 piece, within GP, and I know a number of you have seen these already, there is the routine, the print 1099. You would have run the year-end close, but possibly there is, if you marked a vendor with an incorrect 1099 box or should have been 1099, etc. In utilities, there's an update 1099 information, and this is for GP versions 2013 and above. I don't think anybody, especially on this webinar, is below 2013, but there is this utility in case you have marked someone who is a 1099 vendor, and they are, you know, the bulk of them would be with the 1099 NEC. Let's see, oh my bad. Yeah, NEC, and then the correct box there. If you mark them incorrectly and you needed to change them, then you can bring them in and update their information, etc. This one, if I did the 1099 vendor and their transactions in the same, it would update the information. As with anything within GP, you know, after you put your variables in, you can print. Yeah, no, fine. This is because I'm on my demo system. My apologies. I should have made a restriction on there. And that's the preview that it will do for your 1099s. Okay, so since I did that, as you'll see what it did here, because I changed everything to you owe one unemployee compensation for all those vendors. So I'll be restoring my test company. Anyway, so again, if you had not, if you had marked them incorrectly, then they would be able to be changed within this utility. Then printing the 1099s is within here. The year, selecting, you can do an alignment form, etc. The year, you know, depending on the form, you can do your non-employee miscellaneous dividend interest. I believe nobody in the webinar is on version 18.6, and but within 18.6, they have changed. This is just for future reference in case you know there's you do decide to go to an update and the latest version. In version 18.6, there is a form. The report is now made so that you don't have to buy the forms from the IRS anymore. The now comes with this form now. So you would print this out just like you would any other GP report, and your 1099 information would be on there. I'll move that back over here. Okay, and there was another thing, and I'll let Chris jump in if he needs to, and or John, and because I'm sorry I didn't research this piece correctly or enough. If you have within if you have more than 10 1099 vendors, you need to file that electronically with the IRS, and that is within the this one page that for the IRS, the IRS link that'll be within the presentation that shows you what you need to do to file electronically.
Yeah, that this year.
Yeah, that's new this year.
That's new this year. Yeah. And within all these, you know, these closing of the modules within, you know, inventory, payables, receivables, etc. You know, it says, you know, you close this, make a backup. You close this, make a backup. With some, especially the larger companies, you know, some have, you know, up to 10, 15, 20, 30 companies in their GP databases. That is not logistically a good, you know, feasible, you know, with the assistance of IT possibly, and having to, you know, always do a backup. What we normally do is we make up a backup before we start anything. You know, with any of these systems the way they are anymore, they're very dependable, and you know, we make a backup. We back up, you know, close all the modules, and like John had talked about earlier, you know, you're not always going to close your GL right away after closing your other subsidiary modules, but you know, you'll make a backup after you close all those, and then right before you close your GL, you would probably want to do another backup before you close your GL, and then do another backup after you close your GL. So anyway, you know, it's a choice. You know, we're required to say it, or we like to say it. You know, they say backup, backup, backup. You know, again, it's not always, you know, feasible to be doing, you know, six, seven backups within the year-end closing process. Okay. $1099s. I was talking about earlier, the 1099 with lines. That's with the new version of GP, the updated version. The next piece is fixed assets. After you want to close fixed assets, it is after you close your payables. Fixed, especially if you're doing a link to fixed assets from through payables. Fixed assets is in the finance GL module, but you want to do it before you close your GL and after you close your payables. Within that, the fixed assets, you'll close every, there is a fixed assets routine that closes. You'll have a book for every, you want to close your books in fixed assets. Excuse me. Fixed assets year end, and you'll have your available books come in, and I do them singularly, and but some people do them, all at the same time. You want to close, or before you do the fixed assets, you'll want to depreciate all your assets through the end of the year before you close fixed assets. And let's see, where's that? Okay, so then within forwards, fixed assets, etc. Nobody does payroll on this webinar. Speak up if you are. I don't believe anybody here is doing payroll. All right. So when closing GL, the obviously when to post your entries, close the year or close your periods. You can obviously do file maintenance. For some, some have never done file maintenance, or unless we have, if there's been an issue before and we've assisted, we said, hey, let's do some reconcile or some check links. But some customers have never done it. So if you are going to do a file maintenance on any of the modules, or before you start your year-end closing, you'll definitely want to do a backup before you do that, because when you do your file maintenance, you'll have a report printout, and you want to verify that the data being aligned and or removed and matched is what you want, is what you expect to see. Within the year-end closing for GL, I want to hit on one other point before saying that. All right, within the year-end closing window, there is a reverse historical year button. This has been since GP 2013, and you normally do not have to do this. Normally, what John and I were discussing earlier is that one of the big reasons that you would probably need to do that is that somebody created an account, and the account was marked as a P&L and should have been a balance sheet, or vice versa. It was marked as a balance sheet, should have been a P&L. So, you posted transactions from like maybe May until December, and that's going to affect all your balances. So what you would need to do is, if you had already closed the year, if you'd run through all these processes and closed your year, then you would use this button to reverse it and then change your accounts to the correct posting type. If that has happened, just give us a call and we can give you the process steps on doing that. But that is one of the big reasons that you would, or one of the main reasons that you would use this button. Normally, and like John had said earlier, some wait until they receive their audit and say, hey, okay, now it's March and we're going to close our GL. Others like to close the GL in January as soon as they can, because they want to have their like at the end of January, they want to have their financials for the end of January. And like John said, if you do not close your GL, you won't have your new balances for the month of January. And within GP, if you close the year and need to make an adjustment somewhere down the road, you have the ability to post to the most recently closed year. So you do not have to reopen the year. You would just have to open the period. So within any of these, because it's a demo, these are all open. So like, let's just say close all, and I needed to make an adjustment to period 12 in 24, or let's just, for sake, let's just close all. And I needed to make an adjustment to December of 23. I would open my fiscal period, my financial fiscal period, and then make my adjustment. What would happen is then it would alternately adjust your balance, possibly your balance brought forward and your zero amounts. And you would see, and then if you did a report somewhere, depending on the report you ran, or if you reprinted a posting journal for the end of December, you would see back out and re-enter entries for those accounts. But some people see them and say, why do I have these double entries for this one account? It's because there was an adjusting entry made. So that's just something to see when in case in all probability, if you have to make an audit adjustment for December, that's how that is done. You can post to the most recently closed year. All right. Let's see here. Fiscal year, etc. And I had one more point. Oh, the other one was, sorry. In the case I brought up with the accounts, you can, if you go into your accounts, and the account smart list would tell you easily, as you know, you see from your balance sheet accounts up to your P&L accounts. And what we see is normally somewhere in the, in the 3,000 range, something happens. And that's where I've recently, seen it the most this is depending on the account structure for your company. Somebody would make this a P&L account, or one of these a P&L account, or somewhere around here a balance sheet account, and that's what happens there. So that's an easy look and check to see if your accounts posting type is set up correctly. All right. And any questions or comments from John or Chris? Anyone?
I don't really have any comments other than in this slide deck, there are some of those links that take you to more details. But as always, you can contact any of us, and we can give you a lot of good information with a great experience. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, then. Well, thank you everybody for attending. And again, like John said, if you have any questions, let us know. And you will receive the slides and the recording when available.